mind.
It's getting hot as shit.
We're going to wrap this up real quick, but it's okay because this is a good topic that I stole from another show. And I kind of referenced it to Brandon last week, and we kind of touched on it earlier. You know how we talked about Dunkirk.
Yes.
This movie's going to hold up 60 years from now because the practical effects, it's a history film, just like Saving Private Ryan. It's just a spectacle to behold. So my question to you guys, and it might take you a second, and we can all agree maybe on the same one here. What modern day superhero movie is going to hold up 60 years from now?
Shit on my dick.
Logan.
Logan. Look, he's right off the bat. I like it. Go ahead. Tell me why Logan is going to hold up.
I think Logan actually... It's Logan and Deadpool, honestly. They're going to hold up 60 years ago as a modern-day superhero because they've captured the essence of both characters pretty flawlessly, I would say. You can, I mean, if you're really going to go for it, you can even say the Reeves Superman movies probably will still hold up. And probably the Batman from the 60s already. So
you're knocking them all out. You got to give some other guys.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes! But anyways, modern day. You said modern day. Even though those were made in the past, you can't even.
So let's just say in the last 20 years.
Okay. Yeah, Logan and Deadpool.
Yeah. And is it just because overall they just hold up as movies and they capture the character?
I think Deadpool's humor is still going to be funny 60 years later. Just like Dumb and Dumber is still fucking funny today. It will be a movie that will only been able to be made in the 2010s, whatever you want to call them. And it's still going to be funny to those who lived in the 2010s, and it's still probably really funny to future generations, much like older comedies like Airplane are still funny to us. So
I highly agree with Deadpool. I get where you're coming from with the Logan movie. The only problem with the Logan movie is it's still very much grounded somewhat in the previous franchise. You don't have to see them, but I liked it. I thought it was good. It just didn't captivate me like it did others, but that's just me. But I can see how a lot of people would like it. You don't have to see the other movies, and it's an overall movie.
It's a story about a mutant on the run.
Yeah.
And I think that it also encapsulates Wolverine's anger with himself, with the world, with pretty much everything. So
that's a good choice. Do you have one, Brandon?
The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight. So this is the most obvious choice for a lot of people. No offense. I love you, but this is a phenomenal film. I speak about Dunkirk's going to hold up 60 years from now
because it's Nolan.
It's made by the same dude.
Yep.
Well, yes, it's made by the same guy, but anybody who follows comics, the Heath Ledger Joker is what captivates that film for me. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, the film.
Well, it captivates the film for everyone, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I think that is what is going to hold the film for 60 years from now.
But is it because Heath Ledger died, or is it because he was just that good of a Joker?
Both. I think it's
That's
both.
the thing.
Honestly, I think it's both.
I will say, I think the hype around The Dark Knight, I love the movie. I think the Dark Knight trilogy is way better than anything Ben will do with Batman.
Oh, God, yes.
To be brutally honest, I think those movies will be the quintessential Batman movies. But I think Dark Knight would not have received as many awards if Heath Ledger did not die acting in that role.
Do you really?
Yep.
Okay. What did you think of his character as the Joker? I mean, taking everything else out of it, taking his death out of it, him as the Joker.
He was a quintessential Joker for the time and the era that he was playing the Joker in.
Okay.
Yeah. I will give The Dark Knight is definitely being one on this list because, you got the performances from everybody. Christian Bale was lights out.
Yep.
Michael Caine as Alfred, phenomenal with his monologue about what changes a man, whatever. When he's talking about the man throwing the diamonds out, he didn't do it for
just
the money.
Some men want to watch it.
And also the practical effects. That movie was. This is a Nolan thing.
It's not CGI.
There's no CGI, and it's just shot so eerily well. And I wouldn't say it's his best movie, in my opinion. I have a lot of opinions for what I consider his best films. But
it is the best Batman movie ever made.
Best Batman movie ever made. Even though I really like Batman Begins more, but that's just me because I think it's more of a Batman film. Dark Knight is more of a mainstream Batman film. But as a whole, yes, agreed. It will hold up 6 years from now, without a doubt. And I think Deadpool will, like you said, it's a comedy film. It's just gonna hold. And I'll give you Logan. I think Logan is just super well done. It's very limited on the CGI side, and it's a great performance. It's a last hurrah for Hugh Jackman.
And that's the reason why it's going to hold up is because it's the same reason. Well, I wouldn't say the exact same reason, but Hugh Jackman did a fantastic job. He didn't die, but he's retiring from the character.
Yep.
And it's the same way if Heath Ledger didn't die and he just said, I'm only going to play the Joker once, this will be my last time, I think you would still have the same type of gravitas of
hands down
leaving this character behind.
Real quick before we move on, I know this is a completely different subject. What do we think is Nolan's best movie? I know this could be a topic on its own.
Oh God, yeah, we should probably do this.
I'm going to say that for the next time you're here, because I know you're a big Nolan fan. All right, Johnny, what do you have? What do you think? Do you even know? You want me to go?
I'm kind of like in between two.
It's tough. It's not easy.
I don't know. Probably gonna catch flack for this, but
no, it's fine.
I think the original Guardians of the Galaxy 2014.
I could absolutely agree with that
because
it's like Star Wars,
right? And it gave you characters that if somebody were to say, hey, these are the characters, out of most people would be like, this is weird. What would I want to watch a talking tree for? But the way that the movie was portrayed and the acting, everything in that movie was just so new and different from our Iron Man, get a big suit, explosions, Thor, hammer, it was just, I don't know, I spit everywhere, sorry.
Hey, I've been doing it all throughout the entire podcast.
It was a refreshing take on superhero movies, and I think we needed it to the fact that everything that we were seeing was kind of the same, and big explosions, the bad guy comes, saves the day, gets the girl,
yada yada yada.
The movie's over. This movie, while it kind of did the same thing.
Ronan was a pretty weak villain, to be fair.
Correct. But
the supporting cast alone.
Supporting cast was good. It was a legitimately funny movie. I was laughing out loud in the theater, which I don't do too often. But I don't know. I just think that one will hold up well. I mean, if you still sit down and watch it today, it's a fantastic movie.
Out of the special effects spectacles that are today, I would say Guardians will, just with all the references. I mean, you tackle that 80s nostalgia and all that, you're going to have a movie that's going to hold up because people are going to want to, they're going to want to know what that time period was like. The biggest problem, and I keep saying it over and over, practical effects are huge for movies to hold up. A lot of these movies that are being made today are going to be topped by special effects coming forth in the future. We don't know what it's going to be like. It's going to be top-notch.
See, the thing is, I think they pulled it off right. It's the same way of going back to Star Wars and still watching the original Star Wars. If you go back and watch like the Hamies despecialized version and all that stuff, where Lucas didn't add shitty CGI in. They used practical effects, but they still used the best special effects they could possibly do, and it still holds up today.
Yeah, and that's what makes a movie hold up. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy, if you watch it, has a lot of CG. It's a huge. They made it pretty quick, but it's just the performance and everything about the story. It's so well done, and that's what's going to make.
There's fluidity, and
so that's why it makes it hard to choose these items. I mean, I think you guys have hit most of them, and I would argue the only one that you might have missed, and a lot of people forget about it, and it's kind of what started it all, in my opinion, of the modern day in the last 20 years, is the original X-Men and X-Men 2. These are movies.
I don't think they hold up as well.
You don't think they hold up as well?
To be fair, I haven't watched them recently.
Have you? So these are movies that were very limited at the time in terms of special effects, and it relied very heavily upon just the exploring the nature of the mutants' abilities. And X2 primarily, I remember the most as being one of my favorites. The whole.
Have you watched it recently though?
I have actually in the last couple of years. The whole the thing that gets me the most about the X-Men movies. They kept going and they just kept trying to do so much, and they stopped thinking and stopped realizing like what made X-Men so good. It wasn't about just how many X-Men can you show at one time. It was about the day-to-day school interactions and what could happen.
It's the heroes interacting with each other. That's what
and X2 nailed it. It started with the whole school. They had the field trip at the beginning. You had the Nightcrawler scene at the White House. What would happen in a world where there was actually mutants? And then they kind of touched on the whole Stryker side of the Wolverine origins. They just hit everything. And even down to the end where you just had the reference, is Jean Grey dead? No. So to me, like, what makes a memorable movie and what will hold up is obviously it's a good story. It's practical effects, which we touched with Dark Knight. It's performances, and it's just interactions into portraying heroes the way they should be portrayed. You look at X-Men and X-Men 2, they're pretty, not that they're spot on to the comics, but they look like they could be out of a comic book. And a lot of movies now,
the uniforms are terrible.
They're not the yellow ones.
They're just black leather
But they
with
still
an X across them.
They still touch on the school stuff. They still touch on the relationship between Xavier and Magneto. It just
especially considering what Marvel's now doing to Magneto.
Yeah.
But whatever.
So what you get now is just how can we show as much flashy stuff as possible without it even looking like the comic books? And I just think that, in my opinion, I think the X-Men movies. Now, I would have picked a lot of the ones you guys. I had Guardians, I had Dark Knight, I had Batman Begins. But in my mind, now the ones that weren't picked, I think X-Men and X-Men 2 will probably hold up. I think Bryan Singer's early work was very well done.
I will say it's interesting that none of us have picked any of the Marvel movies that were made by Marvel and directed by Joss Whedon and these, top of the line. They made good movies for the time, and they'll be forgotten in a couple of years.
They're the modern day Western. That's what everybody's calling them. Because, when the Western came around, it was how fast can we come up with a Western because everybody likes it? That's what Marvel did. Now, Marvel's done a good job of sticking to their storyline, and I think I will remember it for that. But am I going to show it to my kids?
No, you'll remember the overarching storyline. You will not remember the individual movies that built that storyline.
Well, unfortunately, that's my opinion. Actually, I was going to say Batman vs. Superman is my favorite. Next to Suicide Squad. That'll hold up 60 years from now.
It wasn't worth a puke in the bucket.
If you didn't know, the Game is Comic Podcast is available on all audio services with the exception of Spotify. You can download it at any time. Also, we release it in video form Monday through Wednesday, parts 1 through 2, in the full video form on Thursday, if you're interested in just watching it all. We also stream it live every Friday, 7 to 9:30 p.m. Central Time. So if you want to come hang out and just say a couple things in the chat with Danny, Chris, anybody, we'll be there. We'll be talking to you. Also, we have a mean social media game at the end of the table. He runs it. He madly posts.
He mad.
Those mean GIFs and memes.
JP.
What is it?
Mine or the Twitters?
The Twitters.
Yours. It's at Gamer Misconduct.
It sure is, bro. What's yours?
Mine is at Johnny Pickles 89.
What about yours, Simon?
Oh, mine's Brass Nunkey. Brass Nunkey. Let's try that again.
Brass. You?
The Igloo.
Igloo. And mine is Tony Krosno. And Alan's is in the description below. But you know what, Landon? I'm really happy you're here. Real quick, before we leave, I know it's hot as balls. What have you been playing lately, buddy? Just you.
It's been fucking... I've railed against the game, but I've been playing Shadow of Mordor.
You sure have, dude. I was going to wrap it up.
He's like...
no, the game's fun.
It is a fun game.
The open
but
world,
the lore is so fucking wrong, but whatever.
You ready for Shadow of War? You going to play it?
I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's okay. If you can disconnect yourself from the way that Tolkien wrote and thought, it's a great game. You actually live in the world for just a little bit in terms of the scenery. For the scenery. Give him the scenery, buddy. You know it looks dope. It's like the movies. Anyways, this has been the Game is Coming By. Podcast episode number 44. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you.
Bye.